Well, I've just finished a night. Hang on a minute, just roll the intro. Alright, well that feels a little better. Sorry about that, I just had to throw myself through the shower and try and freshen up. Now that I'm working a permanent night roster, I'm going to have to plan a whole lot better if I want to put out a new video at least fortnightly, and ideally I'd like to put out something weekly, but I guess we'll see. Anyway, let's get on with this before I end up having to head off to bed already. I've had these two lenses for a little while now, one for the full frame Sony and one for the Micro Four Thirds Panasonic cameras. These are both macro lenses because, well, I adore macro photography. Unfortunately, this is the only photo that I've taken so far. I have barely touched either of these lenses, and that has got to change. So we are heading over to Walyunga Park for a wander around, and we'll be keeping an eye out for creepy crawlies and any other interesting subjects that we can find to photograph with a macro lens. This video is definitely not intended to be a lesson in macro photography. One actually has to know something about a subject before they can offer up any tips. So come along, you can watch me fumble through some of my first attempts at macro photography. Okay, well we actually didn't end up at Walyunga Park. We are instead in Walyunga National Park, and it's not necessarily the best time of year to be trying to do macro photography. There are no flowers around anywhere at the moment, but with the absence of flowers, I decided instead to focus on this little tiny piece of fungus over here. So what I have here is a tripod, and I have a macro slider connected to it, and by using the macro slider I can make tiny little changes to the distance from the object so that you're kind of focusing by moving the camera backward and forward instead. This is fantastic for static subjects, but of course no insect is going to stay still long enough for you to do this sort of thing. I'm not having much luck finding any insects either. Alright, I finally have found a spider. Unfortunately, it's really small, and I don't know that I'm going to have a whole lot of luck here. But as I understand it, the basic technique for catching a spider, it's nowhere near as fancy as the macro slider, is you basically hold yourself up to it and move backward and forward until you actually manage to get the spider in focus. And then just hope that you've got it. Alright, well that was a fun way to spend a couple of hours. It's pretty much my bedtime now, so I won't be talking for too long. Walyunga National Park is a lovely spot. That is in fact the first time that I've been there, but it definitely won't be the last. It wasn't necessarily the best time of year to be tackling macro though, certainly not insects at least. Now I really just have two observations to make. The macro slider, it doesn't slide all that smoothly when it's hung upside down from a tripod, which is a bit of a shame because a lot of macro subjects are very low to the ground. Now it may just be a matter of tightening a few of these knobs up. I'll probably need to practice that a little more. Now the spider that I photographed was almost transparent, which does make things a little difficult. What you didn't see was the number of shots that I took. It was literally dozens, and that there was the only shot that I managed to get in focus. You really want to be able to use a very narrow aperture at that distance because your depth of field is so thin. I suspect it might be a little easier if I were using a flash, although at that distance that would probably create a lot of ugly shadows too. Now I do have a couple of little lume cubes, which are little LED lights, so maybe I'll try those out next time. Anyway, that's about all for this episode. I hope you've enjoyed watching. If you want to see more of my photography, definitely neither of those macro shots will be included, then check out my Instagram page. It's all still a work in progress, but I do feel I'm ever improving, slowly but surely. I plan to have another video out next week, so keep an eye out for that. Until then, if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't done so already, and I'll see you again soon.